Hello everyone, Blind Dweller here. Whilst I was going through my to-do list of what artists to explore next on my channel, I realised something quite interesting recently. In spite of the many talented European artists I've covered so far, as well as many artists across the Atlantic from me, it seems I've hardly touched upon the incredibly profound and eye-opening creativity of artists from Asia, apart from maybe Japan, where I've done a video on Yuko Tatsushima and manga artist Shintaro Keigo. But that is literally it, and to be honest, I want to put a stop to that. There is so much we can learn from art from all corners of the globe to widen our perspective from not only how we view art, but how we view each other and ourselves, including from the biggest continent in the world. So today, my friends, I present to you an artist I've recently become obsessed with, named Zeng Fanzhi. Considered to be a pivotal figure in contemporary Chinese art, Zeng Fanzhi has garnered international acclaim for his emotionally charged and technically masterful paintings that delve into the complexities of identity, the tensions between tradition and modernity, and the universal human experiences of vulnerability and isolation. Born in 1964 in Wuhan, China, Zeng's artistic journey has been intrinsically linked to the rapid social and cultural transformations of his homeland. His early works, characterized by raw depictions of human figures and visceral scenes, mirrored the anxieties and alienation of a society grappling with modernization. As Zeng's career progressed, his artistic vision evolved to encompass a broader range of themes and influences. He began incorporating elements of Western art history and traditional Chinese aesthetics, culminating his iconic mask series, which has become synonymous with his name. These enigmatic portraits featuring figures donning stylized masks explore themes of social conformity, hidden emotions, and the mask we wear to navigate the complexities of modern life. In this video, we will embark on a journey of exploration through Zeng Fanzhi's life and career, tracing his artistic development from his early works to his most recent creations. We will examine some of his most iconic works that shaped his artistic presence, as well as a brief look at his experiences growing up in China during a significant political and cultural upheaval, and his exposure to Western art and culture. Please be sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell if you want to see more videos from me that explore the weird and wonderful and often misunderstood side of the art world. And on that note, welcome to another video everyone. I invite you to join me today to explore the life and artwork of Zeng Fanzhi. Born in Wuhan, China in 1964, Zeng Fanzhi's early life was shaped by a turbulent cultural revolution, a period of immense social and political upheaval. Amidst this turmoil, he discovered a passion for art and sought refuge in creative expression. He honed his skills at the Hubei Academy of Fine Arts, where he immersed himself in oil painting and found inspiration in the raw emotionality of German Expressionism. This early influence laid the foundation for his artistic vision, characterized by its visual intensity and psychological depth. Some of Zeng's earliest pieces, completed during the 1980s, jump in between different styles very frequently, from humble still life paintings to bold abstract works. But it wouldn't be until the early 1990s that a definitive style began to take root. During this period, Zeng moved to Beijing, a city undergoing rapid transformation and modernization. The stark contrast between traditional values and the emerging capitalist culture became a central theme in his work. His iconic mask series, a powerful reflection of this era, depicting individuals wearing masks to conceal their vulnerabilities and anxieties in the face of social pressures. The series resonated deeply with audiences both in China and abroad, cementing Zeng's reputation as a keen observer of the human condition. As Zeng's career progressed, his artistic exploration expanded beyond social commentary. He delved into diverse themes and styles, incorporating elements of traditional Chinese art and Western art history. His portraits, landscapes, and still lifes are testament to his technical virtuosity and his ability to evoke a range of emotions through his brushstrokes. He has captured the likeness of political figures and celebrities, each portrait revealing a unique glimpse into their inner worlds. Zeng's impact extends far beyond the canvas. His works have garnered critical acclaim and achieved record-breaking prices at auctions, solidifying his status as a leading figure in the international art market. He has been featured in prominent exhibitions worldwide, captivating audiences with his emotional depth and artistic innovation. Beyond his artistic achievements, Zeng is also recognized for his philanthropic endeavors. He actively supports charitable initiatives in China and beyond, demonstrating a commitment to social responsibility. Through his art and philanthropy, Zeng Fanzhi continues to leave an enduring legacy, inspiring artists and art enthusiasts alike with his unique vision and unwavering dedication to his craft. Whilst on the subject, let's now take a look at some of his most important works that shaped such a legacy. Our first painting exploration for us today is Zeng Fanzhi's Hospital Triptych No. 1. Completed in 1991, this triptych is a seminal work that not only catapulted the artist to international recognition, but also serves as a poignant reflection of China's socio-political climate during this period of his life. This work is an ambitious undertaking for a graduating student, demonstrating Zeng's mastery of technique and his unique visual language that would later become his signature style. For those who may not know, a triptych is an art term for a piece of art displayed through 3 canvases placed side by side to create a kind of panoramic view of a scene or theme that the artist wishes to convey. In the case of Hospital Triptych No. 1, each panel of a triptych offers a different perspective on the hospital experience, creating a narrative that unfolds across the canvases. The left panel, depicting patients awaiting treatment, is characterized by a palpable sense of anxiety and anticipation. The figures are tightly clustered, their bodies contorted in discomfort, and their faces etched with wide-eyed expressions that range from despondency from the doctors and concern from the patients. The central panel shifts the focus to the operating room, where the vulnerability of the human body is exposed in, let's be honest, the most unflattering way possible. The surgical procedure seems to be depicted with unflinching realism, highlighting the sterile environment and the almost detached demeanor of the medical staff. The final panel, showcasing the aftermath of a surgery, is imbued with a sense of resignation and exhaustion. The patients, now bandaged and immobilized, lie in their beds, their faces seemingly empty of emotion as they stare into space. When looking at the 3 panels side by side, however, we get a true sense of what the overall theme seems to be projecting. For example, the first painting might be read as fairly benevolent, but when accompanied with a claustrophobic crowd of surgeons around the naked figure in the middle panel, and the apparently grinning doctor in front of the suffering patients in the third panel, suggests a class-based suffering in which the vulnerable patients are powerless at the hands of potentially sadistic doctors, who might also represent other kinds of authoritarian abuse. Zeng's technical skill is evident in his meticulous attention to detail and his ability to capture the nuances of human expression. Although the figures are warped and almost cartoon-like in design, they are also simultaneously rendered with a visceral realism that is both captivating and unsettling. Their skin is pallid, their veins bulging beneath the surface. The shadows deepening the contours of their faces is a haunting result of the theatrical style of lighting Zeng has created here. Their eyes are hollow and sunken, reflecting the emotional toll of their ordeal. Zeng's use of colour further enhances the emotional impact of the work. The predominant hues of browns and greys are muted and earthy, creating a sense of decay and uncertainty. The occasional subtle sight of blood, whether contained in glass vials or staining the bandages of patients, serve as a stark reminder of the physical trauma endured by them. Beyond its aesthetic merits, Hospital Triptych No. 1 is a powerful social commentary. The inspiration behind this work came from scenes witnessed by Zeng in a hospital in his hometown, which prompted Zeng to create a series of paintings now known collectively as the Hospital series, which included this triptych alongside many other harrowing depictions of suffering in a sterile and foreboding hospital environment. As Zeng himself explains, quote, "Life was very different then. We were poor, really poor. I lived next to the hospital and we didn't even have a toilet, so I used those of a hospital every day. What I saw left a strong imprint on me." End quote. Oddly enough, during this period, Zeng was also studying German Expressionism. And for those of you who may have seen my documentary on Otto Dix, you have to admit this triptych is very reminiscent of the New Objectivity movement, where portrayals of everyday life are not romanticized or glorified, but instead presented with a very strong taste of rawness and ugliness. Just as Otto Dix was brutally satirizing the Weimar Republic of Germany at the time, Zeng seems to be satirizing his own surroundings in an equally blunt and unapologetic way to expose the often ignored social upheavals. For example, this other triptych included in the series, completed the following year in 1992, under the simple title of Hospital Triptych No. 2, captures a very similar atmosphere, arguably more potently. When looking at the dramatic dominating central panel in this work, to me it captures an almost biblical scene of Jesus Christ being taken down from the cross, a theme very common in paintings all throughout history, with the female figure dressed in a nurse's uniform, holding the patient like the Virgin Mary, holding Jesus amongst a crowd of disciples, which in this case are depicted as more hospital staff and other patients, and possibly loved ones of a central figure in the arms of a nurse. There are also 3 patients in total lying on a crude hospital bed or table, the one in the middle looking very similar to our central panel patient. The significance of this is that, much like the crucifixion of Christ, 2 other condemned men named Justus and Dismas were crucified alongside Jesus. This significance cuts deeper when looking at the final panel on the right that shows our central figure, once again, apparently well, or at least revived, whilst the other 2 accompanying patients remain lying motionless, possibly even dead on the table. From a certain point of view, it appears as if our central figure has been resurrected from certain death, again much like Jesus Christ in his resurrection, whilst the other 2 patients have sadly not been so fortunate. It's interesting how close to this biblical story this scene is when you really pick things apart. And it honestly wouldn't surprise me if Zeng, someone so passionate about learning from different art movements throughout history, masterfully combines his experiences of regularly visiting the hospital with the classical art movements that depicted scenes from the Bible. One thing is for certain, this work seems to offer an intimate opportunity for the viewer to ponder on death and suffering. With this cultural blend of Renaissance art with that of his own, it beautifully ascends his hospital series to the realm of philosophy, a transition made from a depiction of an individual Chinese patient to consideration of the universal problems of suffering that many of us experience. Zeng's hospital series as a whole serves as a very profound exploration of mortality and the human body. But this would be only a delicate sorbet to tease your palate in the grand scheme of things, because now we're going to take a look at some examples from arguably a much more harrowing series that followed. This painting, completed in 1992, simply titled Meat, is one of Zeng's most well-known examples of a series known, appropriately enough, as the Meat series. This oil-on-canvas painting confronts the viewer with a raw and unsettling depiction of a butchered carcass, with its muted grey-brown colour palette, harsh brushstrokes, and its vibrant red flesh, starkly contrasted against a sterile background. The composition is deliberately simple, allowing the grotesque beauty of the meat to dominate the canvas and evoke a visceral response from the viewer. In terms of imagery, we're presented with a back room of a butcher shop, with 2 large butcher knives hanging on the wall, and dozens of meat hooks hanging from the ceiling, some of which are holding animal carcasses. On the floor we can see more carcasses, some partially covered by a white sheet. Within the scene of blood and offal, we can see 2 figures. One stands behind the pile of meat on the floor, wearing white boxer shorts and a white vest, and is holding another carcass. The second figure stands prominently in front, looking directly at the viewer, topless in white boxers, blood-stained running shoes, and he also appears to be holding a lit cigarette. Much like the room itself, these 2 figures are covered in blood, to a point where it seems their bodies hardly differ from the blood-stained carcasses that surround them. The painting's composition is a chaotic, yet carefully orchestrated arrangement of raw meat slabs, their vivid reds and pinks contrasting against the gloomy background. Zeng Fanzhi's expressive brushstrokes and impasto technique create a tactile quality, inviting the viewer to almost feel the textures and experience the visceral nature of the subject matter. The artist's deliberate choice of a large-scale format further amplifies the painting's impact, enveloping the viewer in its unsettling beauty. In likeness to his hospital series, Zeng found inspiration for his meat series by his everyday sights and experiences. As explained by one of my favourite visual art history websites, theartstory.org, Zeng would comment on a specific time during his school years where he experienced the sights and smells of the butcher shops in his Wuhan neighbourhood on the way to school, recounting how often he saw workers lying on top of frozen meat in an attempt to cool down during the hot months. Quote, "As a young man, these were vivid and indelible images that conjure powerful and mixed feelings. One of those was hunger because we were poor, but also horror as the blood of the meat stained the workers and handlers. I used a lot of red during this phase of my work. The colour repulsed yet fascinated me at that time." End quote. Inspired by these memories, Zeng ultimately completes the raw essence of life and death, presenting a visceral portrayal of flesh that transcends its literal depiction. This in turn leaves us with a wide space to fit in many interpretations. One of the most noticeable patterns, based on what we've seen of his work so far, is Zeng once again is rebelling against a decent or wholesome depiction of a day-to-day society advocated by socialist realism in Chinese art at the time. Instead, he chooses to show the warts and all perspective of what really happens in the working class realms of a country, with all imperfections boldly on display. Going back to the figures and how their bodies almost blend seamlessly with that of the meat carcasses, this skillfully reveals Zeng's proposal of an equivalency amongst the dead and living in this painting. In other words, it reminds us that human beings are also constituted of flesh, and suggests the objectification of people as being seen as nothing but pieces of meat dwelling in oppressive societies. Some perceive it as a critique of consumerism, whilst others see it as commentary on the political and social climate of early 1990s China, with the meat symbolizing repressed desires and anxieties. This painting may also prompt contemplation on the relationship between humans and animals, raising ethical questions about our consumption of meat and its consequences. I'm not vegan or strictly vegetarian myself, but even I can't help but see glimpses of a sense of non-duality between the carcasses and the figures. When presented side by side in this manner, there ultimately isn't that much difference at all, showing more of our similarities than our differences between us and animals. Also, much like Hospital Triptych No. 1, there are subtle glimpses of religious symbolism once again. The white sheet, for example, elicits associations with the sheet that covered the body of Christ, while meat and bleeding bodies in the Bible symbolize both sacrifice and salvation, leaving open questions of what is offered up in this composition of bloodied bodies, and to whom. Beyond its immediate visual impact, meat holds an arguably deeper resonance, delving into existential themes of mortality, vulnerability, and the fleeting nature of existence. The raw flesh serves as a stark reminder of our own physicality and the inevitable decay that awaits us all. By confronting a viewer with this uncomfortable reality, Zeng challenges us to reflect on our own mortality and the choices we make in our lives. Upon completion, this painting presented a radical challenge to Chinese art and painting at the time, remaining as impactful and unusual in an international context via its uneasy ambiguity. Zeng Fanzhi's Mask Series No. 6, completed in 1996, is a pivotal work that greatly embodies the social, political, and emotional landscapes of China during its rapid economic transformation. This monumental diptych, comprising of 2 canvases, each measuring 200 by 180 centimeters, confronts viewers with 8 masked figures lined up against a stark, yellow background. This again would be one example out of many contained within a series under the same name of masks, which began shortly after Zeng relocated to Beijing. The figures, dressed in oversized Western clothing, don a uniform mask, a grotesque smiling visage that conceals their true emotions in a disturbing and oppressive way. The exaggerated expressions of the masks only heighten the sense of the facade, as if straining to bear a smile in a way that's completely unnatural. This concealment mirrors the societal pressures to conform and project an image of success and happiness, even as the individual experiences internal turmoil and alienation. Zeng would comment on this directly after arriving in Beijing as follows. It was a drastic change. Everything was so monumental in scale. I felt a total sense of solitude, of isolation. China was changing very fast in the 90s. People wore suits and ties, but you could tell they were really uncomfortable inside. There is a tradition of performing with masks, and I painted every character with a white mask on." End quote. The masks thus serve a poignant metaphor for the dehumanizing effects of modernization and the loss of individuality in a rapidly changing world. It's apparent that Zeng felt that he, as well as the other modern Chinese urbanites, were obliged to hide behind figurative masks, hiding negative feelings of sadness, distress, and loneliness, and instead pretending to be happy and thriving, no matter how far from the truth it may be, as if they're hostages to their own society. Zeng's technical skill is clear to see in his meticulous rendering of the figures and the subtle variations in their postures and expressions, despite the uniformity of their attire. The vibrant yellow background, while seemingly monotonous, amplifies the sense of artificiality and unease, highlighting the figure's isolation and detachment from their surroundings. The Mask Series No. 6 is not only a reflection of China's socio-political climate, but also a testament to Zeng's ability to blend Western and Eastern artistic traditions. When I posted a picture of this piece of art on my channel, one suggestion came in that it might have been a piece painted by James Ensor, and I have to admit, I wouldn't be surprised if this was another Western artist that influenced Zeng. Even his use of oil paint and large scale of the canvases are reminiscent of Western painting, while the flatness of the picture plane and the symbolic use of colour evoke Chinese ink painting. This synthesis of styles speaks to Zeng's own hybrid identity, shaped by both his Chinese upbringing and his exposure to Western art during his studies. This is also evident in the style of the white masks themselves that bear a strong resemblance to the masks used in Chinese opera, and also reference the mask of the Western dress in modernity. The mask of whiteness Zeng references in his recollection of the changing face of China in the 90s. If we look closer at the attire the figures are wearing, you will notice the red kerchiefs that relate to the young pioneers, the young movement of the Communist Party in China. This detail adds a whole new layer to the theme of Zeng's mask series. Zeng had grown up during a time when every schoolchild, aged between 6 and 14, aspired to receive the red kerchief, seen by society as a sign of acceptance and achievement in the little red guard. Years later, he still resented being denied this reward by a teacher at his elementary school that he describes as strange and vindictively abusive, leaving him as one of only 3 children in a class of 54 without it, resulting in him being routinely mocked and bullied by his peers. The figure's oversized hands make them both cartoon-like, but also disturbing on a more subtle level, as it emphasizes how frequently fists were thrown to damage those who dared to disagree, or to those who simply did not fit in. The painting has been sold twice at auction, setting records for Chinese contemporary art each time. The first sale in 2008 fetched for roughly $9.7 million in Hong Kong, while the second sale in 2020 reached a staggering $23.3 million. These figures attest to the growing global recognition of Zeng's artistic vision and his ability to capture the complexities of a human condition in the face of rapid change. To me, Mask Series number 6 is more than just a painting. It is a cultural artifact that encapsulates the anxieties and aspirations of a generation caught between tradition and modernity. It is a testament to Zeng Fanzhi's artistic ability to create works that spread awareness of drastic indoctrination and that resonate deeply with viewers across cultural boundaries. I'd like us now to take a look at self-portrait this time, simply titled Self-Portrait, completed by Zeng in 1996. This work is a complex and emotionally charged masterpiece that encapsulates the artist's personal struggle and the socio-political climate of post-Tiananmen China. In this particular self-portrait, Zeng depicts himself wearing an unbuttoned trench coat, crumpled trousers, and a blue t-shirt. The red kerchief makes an appearance once again as well, and his signature oversized hands are down by his side as he gazes at the viewer with a sense of solemn calmness in his expression. Of course, we already know the significance of the red scarf within Zeng's paintings that allude to childhood trauma, but when mixed with his Western attire, he is representing not only his own hybrid identity, but also the increasingly globalized identity of the People's Republic of China. The calligraphy on the walls, much like the red kerchief, would also thrust the viewers of a Chinese public back to their youth, as the calligraphy is very reminiscent of what would be found on the walls of any typical Chinese classroom of his generation. This calligraphy also reminds Chinese viewers of a tradition of literati portraiture, where scholars would accompany their self-portraits with poetic ruminations on their philosophies, written in an ornate style. There is also the curious sight of smashed watermelons that are spread across the floor by Zeng's feet. These are believed to serve as a proxy for raw flesh, while at the same time their red hue symbolizes Chinese communism and its ruins. The violence apparent in the torn, smashed watermelons contrasts sharply with the calm demeanor of the artist, creating the sense of tension between chaos and serenity, typical of nearly all of Zeng's artworks and analogous of a society told to maintain a sense of strength and poise within a world that appears to be chaotic and oppressive. Aside from the blend of Western and Chinese symbolism that we've already discussed, there is also another subtle nod to Western art history when comparing this work to another self-portrait by the well-known German artist Max Beckmann, completed in 1917, titled Self-Portrait with Red Scarf. When viewing these self-portraits side by side, we can already see that both feature the artists with a red scarf around their necks, albeit with very different cultural significance, as well as distorted, oversized hands. Interestingly, Beckmann was an artist who used self-portraiture to question the validity of his occupation, much like how Zeng, in his self-portrait, appears to be questioning his current predicament in a newly capitalist China. Whether or not this is accurate to what the artist intended is not entirely certain, but it's interesting to see his love for satirical German arts leak through into his work, even if only at a subtle level, and how such powerful themes in this genre of art are easily applicable to most, if not all, societal struggles in every corner of the world. Zeng Fanzhi's 2004 painting named Tiananmen is a large-scale oil painting that serves a complex and multi-layered commentary on Chinese modern history, this time particularly focused on the legacy of Mao Zedong and the Tiananmen Square protests of 1989. The painting features a ghostly, distorted portrait of Mao Zedong, the founding father of the People's Republic of China. The portrait is both realistic and surreal, with crude black outlines and a fragmented appearance. This distortion can be interpreted as a reflection of the complex and often contradictory nature of Mao's legacy. The background of the painting depicts a blurry and disjointed Tiananmen Square, the site of the 1989 pro-democracy protests that were violently suppressed by the Chinese government. The square's muted colours and hazy outlines create a sense of disorder and suggests the government's attempts to erase the memory of the protests from the public consciousness. Zeng's characteristically thick and expressive brushstrokes ignite sensations of energy and dynamism, while also contributing to the overall feeling of disorientation. The imagery of Chairman Mao takes the viewer right to the heart of what the painting represents. In many ways, this painting can be seen as a critical examination of Mao's legacy, highlighting both his revolutionary achievements and the devastating consequences of his policies, such as the Cultural Revolution. The distorted portrait suggests the difficulty of reconciling these conflicting aspects of his rule. Zeng himself would even describe Mao as being, quote, a lingering ghost presiding over popular consciousness, end quote. The blurred and abstracted depiction of Tiananmen Square serves as a reminder of the government's suppression of dissent and its attempts to control historical narratives. The painting invites viewers to remember the events of 1989 and reflect on their ongoing significance. The painting can also be interpreted as a broader commentary on Chinese identity and the challenges of navigating between tradition and modernity. The juxtaposition of Mao's portrait with the cityscape of Beijing highlights the tension between the past and present, as well as the ongoing struggle to define a national identity in a rapidly changing world. I wish I could elaborate further on the events depicted in this painting, but it's important to note that the Tiananmen Square protests of 1989 are a sensitive topic, and the Chinese government continues to suppress information and discussion about the events. So as a result, I find it quite difficult to obtain fully accurate and unbiased information about the protests. However, numerous eyewitness accounts, photographs and videos that you'll likely come across attest to the violent crackdown on the protesters, and the event remains a significant turning point in modern Chinese history. Regardless of one's interpretation or thoughts on the event itself, Tiananmen remains a powerful and thought-provoking work of art that continues to spark debate and discussion about Chinese past, present, and future. Zeng Fanzhi's The Land is So Rich in Beauty Too, completed in 2006, is another large-scale oil painting that embodies his signature style while simultaneously engaging with complex themes in contemporary Chinese society. The painting depicts a snowy landscape, likely inspired by Chairman Mao's poem Snow, from which the series title, This Land is So Rich in Beauty, is derived. However, Zeng subverts the idyllic imagery of a poem by employing chaotic and expressive brushwork. The snow-covered mountains and trees are rendered in thick, gestural strokes, creating a sense of turbulence and unease. The painting is composed along a diagonal axis from top left to bottom right, and along this line appears to be a tangled hedgerow of leaves, twigs, and branches with a snowy ground below. The crude and quick application of paint gives this work a sense of unease, like trying to piece together an abstract image of a dream. Contextually, the title of the series, drawn from Mao's poem, could be seen as intentionally ironic. While Mao's poem praises the beauty and abundance of China, Zeng's paintings expose the contradictions and anxieties beneath the surface. The artist's technique of using two paintbrushes at once when making this piece, one controlled and the other spontaneous, further emphasizes this duality. In this way, he uses abstract expressionist and surrealist techniques to leave traces of a psychological tension between both his personal psyche as well as within contemporary Chinese society and culture. In other words, one could easily interpret this visual dissonance as reflecting the underlying tension between the idealized image of China presented in propaganda and the lived reality of rapid social and economic change. As we've already seen, Zeng's work often explores themes of identity, alienation, and psychological impact of societal transformations. In This Land Is So Rich in Beauty too, the landscape becomes a metaphor for the Chinese nation, struggling to reconcile its past with its present. The painting can be seen as a commentary on the environmental degradation and social upheaval caused by rapid industrialization and urbanization. You have to admit that there is a strange sense of abandon in this imagery, almost as if nature has been left to rot, totally neglected and left behind. Zeng Fanzhi's artistic trajectory not only stands as a testament to his individual genius, but also as a vibrant reflection of the evolving cultural landscape of China. His bold experimentation with Western artistic conventions, juxtaposed with deeply rooted Eastern philosophical undertones, has birthed a unique visual language that resonates globally. The emotional rawness of his Earthly Mask series, a poignant commentary on the masks that we all wear in the face of societal pressures, paved the way for a more introspective and nuanced exploration of human vulnerability and the existential condition in his later works. Zeng's oeuvre, an intricate tapestry woven with threads of personal experience and collective consciousness, serves as a rich source of inspiration and contemplation for art enthusiasts and scholars alike. His profound influence extends beyond the realm of art, as his works offer a valuable lens through which to understand the complexities of contemporary Chinese society and its ever-changing relationship with the global community. As his artistic journey continues to unfold to this day, it wouldn't surprise me if Zeng Fanzhi's indelible mark on the international art scene will continue to deepen, solidifying his legacy as one of the most significant satirical artists of our generation. His unwavering commitment to artistic integrity and his ability to evoke profound emotions through his canvases serve as a reminder of the enduring power of art to transcend cultural boundaries and touch the very essence of our existence. Thank you for watching, everyone. I hope you found this video informative and maybe even inspiring enough to check out more works by Zeng Fanzhi. Personally, I really recommend looking through more works of his Hospital and Meat series, as there's so many hard-hitting examples that share much of what Zeng experienced, and it's well worth having your own personal experience with them. Before I officially end this video, I'd like to, as per usual, share some artwork sent in by one of my lovely viewers for the end of video feature I like to call Artist Corner, and today's featured artist is named Anna Myers. Anna graduated from Lamar University with a degree in printmaking, and ever since, she's perfected a signature style of drawings and sculptures that look like creatures from the darkest depths of our nightmares, and they just look awesome. I first came into contact with Anna after she emailed me a wonderfully written article on an exhibition of her work that took place last year in Beaumont, Texas, USA, which I've also left a link for in the description below. What I discovered were leathery, warped and contorted sculptures that look like extraterrestrial parasites that look more alive than just mere objects, which also serve as an extension of her masterful drawings. Each drawing is oozing with detail and immersed in a dramatic and unsettling lighting, very reminiscent of H.R. Giger in my opinion. But what makes Anna's work stand out is its ambiguity. You're never quite sure what you're face to face with, whether it be a living creature, remnants of an ancient mystical civilization, or perhaps even an abstract physical embodiment of our complex emotions or thoughts. I think this is some seriously compelling artwork for any art fan to explore, so I'm really excited to share her work with you today. Please head over to her Instagram, which I've left a link for below, along with a link to take you straight to her exhibition article as well if you want to have a look. If you too are an artist and would like me to spotlight some of your hard work, I'd love to meet you. All you have to do is send me an email with examples of your work and a paragraph or two about yourself to blinddweller@gmail.com. I'm making it official from here onwards, by the way, that I'm now only accepting submissions via email. But of course, I'm always still looking forward to getting to know you guys through Instagram and my Blind Dwellers Art Club on Discord. So if you want to say hi through those platforms, please feel free. Finally, as always, a huge thank you to all of my patrons and channel members. The fact is, making these videos takes a lot of time and research to make, over 40 hours a week sometimes, despite the very little money I make. So the extra support you guys provide is honestly so humbling and helps keep this channel alive. So here's a personal shout out to all of my top tier donators. Laurie Gallardo, Port Perea, Miles Z, Great, Vlad Ziv, Tyler Butler, Eric Lamarca, Dave MC, Molotail, H's Place, Equatamok, Lee Flowers, Calvin Kai, The New Gone 24, Akaiza, Charlie Sanchisi, Ken B, and Carol H. That's all from me this time. Thanks again for watching. See you in the next one soon. Keep being creative, and bye for now.